U.S. intervention in Venezuela. Hugo Chavez was born July 28, 1954. He served as the 64th president of Venezuela from 1999 to 2013. Hugo Chavez had close relations to Fidel Castro, Saddam Hussein, and Muammar Gaddafi. He was especially close with Cuba. Chavez would sell crude oil at discount rates to Castro for medical and other services in return. Hugo Chavez stated, "Here we are, as alert as ever, Fidel and Hugo, fighting with dignity and courage to defend the interests of our people, and to bring alive the idea of Bolivar and Martí. In the name of Cuba and Venezuela, I appeal for the unity of our two peoples, and of the revolutions that we both lead. Bolivar and Martí, one country, united." The United States viewed Hugo Chavez odd for visiting these dictators and had a close eye on him. Hugo Chavez was forming into a potential dictator. He began to isolate Venezuela from the United States and did not want to help the U.S. in any way. He branded the post-September 11 U.S. attacks on Afghanistan as fighting terrorism with terrorism, demanding an end to the slaughter of innocents. He refused to provide U.S. intelligence agencies with information on the country's large Arab community when he visited Afghanistan. He temporarily suspended Congress more than once. He did not cooperate to Washington's satisfaction with the U.S. war against the Colombian guerrillas, and lastly, he wanted an end to the U.S. embargo. George W. Bush saw Hugo Chavez as a potential threat to the United States and sent many sanctions against Venezuela. On September 24, 2004, Bush sent a sanction to Hugo Chavez for failing to fight against human trafficking. U.S. officials stated that the sanctions were warranted against Venezuela because it allowed the trafficking of Brazilian and Colombian women into the country for sexual exploitation and the exporting of Venezuelan women to Western Europe for its sex trade. Another U.S. sanction against Venezuela was over the oil industry. Venezuela is one of the largest exporters of oil, and it makes up to 2.4 million barrels of oil per day. Venezuela is a member of OPEC, or Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, and their company is PDVSA, or Petroleum of Venezuela. This photo is the El Platillo oil refinery of Venezuela, and it states, "Venezuela ahora es de todos," which states the oil of Venezuela is for all the countries. Chavez was selling crude oil to Iran. So in 2011, under Obama's presidency, the Secretary of State imposed sanctions on PDVSA for delivering 3 cargoes of reformant, a blending component for gasoline, to Iran between December 2010 and March 2011. The sanctions were imposed under the Iran Sanctions Act of 1996, which orders the imposition of sanctions on individuals that engage in certain activities involving Iran's energy sector. The sanctions prohibit PDVSA from competing for U.S. government contracts, securing finances from the Ex-Import Bank of the United States, and obtaining export licenses. After the sanction, Venezuela's production fell, and now its profits come from Middle Eastern countries like China. The U.S. tried its best to deal with the dictator Hugo Chavez. His connections with other dictators in other countries could have been great danger to the United States. Imperialism is viewed as the U.S. constantly controlling other countries. Venezuela was in the wrong hands. Hugo Chavez has even said teaming up with Iran and other countries. Let's save the human race, let's finish off the U.S. empire. Hugo Chavez finished his dictatorship on March 5, 2013, when he passed away from a 2-year battle with cancer. Hugo's dictatorship has left a mark on Venezuela, and the new president, Nicolás Maduro, is the new Hugo Chavez of Venezuela.